Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, here's some plants that I think you might want to try in your garden. With our ever-warming climate, I think St. Catharines and mainly Niagara-on-the-Lake are Zone 7. And as a result, you might want to try and push that Zone 7 with a plant that inspired the Greeks' architecture. Acanthus. You'll often see the shape of the leaves at the top of their columns. Now, Acanthus whitewater is a newer one. This one is a green and white leafed acanthus leaf, which of course is only hardy to Zone 7. It does prefer more light shade to shade. It is good for cutting. The flowers are almost like an exotic turtle head or even the taller foxglove. Now, as a plant, it is an unusual one, and it is just marginally hardy. This showy one, Acanthus whitewater, has a variegated leaf. And, of course, like all acanthus, the leaves are deeply, deeply serrated and cut, almost looking like holly. It was bred for the warmth and to give beauty in the summertime. It's got some more hardiness to it than most of the acanthus, and its heat and humidity tolerance is greater, which is what we have to deal with here in Niagara. So you might want to try that one. Now, some of the Agastache simplex are many different colors, or what used to be known as Agastache. Now, the best of the black or dark leafed varieties is called black negligee. This one is very vigorous. And that's part of the problem with the black varieties. They're not that very vigorous. These are in some ways a native plant material, but it has been bred, and of course it's got the black, and the native ones are all green ones. The flowers are white, and they are very upright. They almost look like a finger sticking up. They're white. They're held above the dark foliage, which is heavily cut. And it's a perfume on the flowers that is sort of smells of grape and jasmine. So it's a little more unusual. It does prefer the shade. If you give it lots of sun, you have to make sure you give it lots of water. It is, of course, hardy to Zone 5. It does like the sun semi-shade. It is deer resistant. And, of course, it does attract butterflies as well. So here is a nice plant that you will probably find that is fragrant, gives you color in the summertime, which is an unusual color, and acts as a contrast to many other plants in your garden, and it's perennial. So, you may want to try that one. That's Agastache simplex black negligee. It may still be sold under Agastache black negligee. Now, Agastache. Now, Agastache, if it had a better name, an easier to pronounce name, and trust me, I've heard this name pronounced 4 different ways, and if it had a better name, I think basically what would happen is this one could be a more popular plant. It's very cold hardy. It is genetically dwarfed. It blooms all summer. It's well branched. There are 6 colors. It's downy mildew resistant. It uses lower water usage than many of the plants once it's established. It attracts the bees and the hummingbirds. Most of them are around 16 to 24 inches and maybe as high as 20 to 26. Hardy to zone 5, loves the sun, attracts the hummingbirds, the butterflies, is fragrant, is deer resistant, and uses less water. Now, the Agastache or Agastache has different series. And the one that is probably one of the most popular is Kudos. Now, Kudos will give you a gold flowered variety, a silver blue flowered variety, a pink, two-tone pink, basically, variety, and Kudos yellow being straight yellow. So you've got the gold, the yellow, two-tone pink, and of course the silver blue. You can combine these together to give a real big show, or you can just use those. Now, I put those together in that group, but there's also a couple of others. The coral is a little more towards the red. So Agastache can actually be used as well as a contrast. So you've got this red, I wouldn't put it with the pink. I would put it with the gold or with the yellow, particularly with the yellow. The Mandarin Kudos Agastache is excellent in the fact that it is that orange color. And that orange color can really shoot up and give you good contrast as well. So there's a plant that will give you color all through the growing season. Now, Agastache can be also a little taller. The blue boa variety is probably one of the best. Hardy to zone 5. Again, likes the sun, attracts the hummingbirds, the butterflies. It's fragrant, it's deer resistant, and low in demand for water once they're established. It has won awards, and when you see it, you will go, that almost looks like a buddleia. The flowers are that big, that thick, and that gorgeous looking. The flowers are luxurious, deep violet blue spikes that are held over top of a very nice green foliage, attracting them, and of course, zone 5. That's and things. So, being a 30 to 36 inch plant, it looks like a little dwarf buddleia, butterfly bush. So it could be used that way. Violet Vision, same thing. Not quite as heavy a bloomer or quite as large a plant. But again, all of the attributes of the Agastache blue boa. The Violet Vision, the flowers are a lush violet. They are very disease resistant and vigorous. The scent on these flowers is that of a sweet honey licorice. There's a good reason to go and just put it in your garden right there. One of the newest varieties of Agastache is Morello. Now, Morello is a deep burgundy rose flower. It's huge flowers, except they're very dense, very large. They do bring out the best in the cooler weather through spring and fall. It's got the dark green foliage, and it's got a very strong upright habit. Has multiple crowns, good mildew resistance, and it is, of course, loved by the bees and the hummingbirds. as well as all the other attributes, being about a 22 to 27 inch tall plant. That one might be worthwhile putting in, but I would definitely put in Agastache Blue Boa. Now there is another series of Agastache, and that is Summer Series. Blooms all summer. The flowers are large, bright, and self-cleaning, drought-resistant. They're good for in mass plantings and also in containers. And it is very, very attractive. So, bees, hummingbirds, but this one is only hardy to zone 6. This one might be a bit of a push for many people. But the Agastache is Raspberry Summer, Summer Love. So you can see that one is going... Summer Love is a little lighter in red. The Raspberry Summer is a little more raspberry red. The Agastache Summer Sunset is more the orange. And the Summer Glow is, of course, on the yellow. So there is some of the great ones that you can go and put in. Now there's a few other plants we should cover as well. And the Ajuga. Now, Ajuga's been around as a ground cover forever. Okay? And in some states, some varieties of Ajuga are actually an invasive weed. But there are some newer varieties that, when controlled or in the proper zones, are excellent. Now, there's Blueberry Muffin. Now, this one is a small leaves ground cover with dark new leaves and blueberry blue flowers on 8-inch spikes. Now that's interesting. So it has the small green leaves, etc. that you're used to. It's a stronger grower, and it really competes against the weeds with its dense habit. It's more weather resistant, which is good for this area. Hardy to zone 5, likes the sun, semi-shade or shade. And of course, it is also attracting butterflies and hummingbirds. It's only 6 to 8 inches tall. So, not a bad one. Then there's Ajuga Sparkler. It's a variegated one. Now, this one is really interesting in the fact that it has thick, dark green, shiny foliage covered in creamy white splashes, completely irregular. So every leaf is different. And it's just so bright, so that even if in the shade, you're going to get a brighter light on this one. In the winter, depending on whether you can see it or not, so I would say in late fall, the white takes on a pink tinge. So it changes a little bit more towards pink. The new growth is more variegated than the older growth, which is normal for many of the plants. It grows in containers. It grows as a ground cover or edge or ball, the edge of a border, and small blue flowers. You're really growing this one for the variegated leaf. Hardy to zone 6 as well. Here's one that I hesitate to say, and that is an Aurelia called Sun King. The reason is that most Aurelias are, of course, how shall I say this? They have a tendency to run and pop up where you don't want them. Now, this one has got bold, golden Aurelia leaves. It's with the green, the new growth is more yellowish. It makes good accent in shade or part shade. It's fast growing, deciduous. It has small white flowers that look like satellites, okay, late in the summer. and of course purple berries. It forms well in containers or in the landscape. It's very fast to fill a pot. It's hardy to zone 3. It's going to be 4 foot by 4 foot. I told you I'm a little scared of this one. So be aware on this one. Sun or shade, 4 foot by 4 foot, and it's very vigorous and aggressive. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.